Hello, Lunch and Learn attendees. My name is Michael Milligan, and I'm very excited today to present to you an overview of Acumatica for labs and the reasons it fits well in this industry. I hope everyone got their Grubhub free lunch certificate. If you did not, just send an email to mmilligan@accu.com and I'll get that straightened out. So let's get started. The things that I'm hearing from labs as we talk to our customers that are labs and to other businesses that we're trying to help is that labs basically have two key business workflows. Either they're doing a quote to a project where a lab test or tests are part of a bigger lab project with either research, medical experts, doctors, engineers, professionals that add value to that lab test and interpret it, write papers, and give expert opinions on it. Or they're doing lab tests for volume, where like your tox labs or volume labs for maybe a clinical research project, and that there's some kind of complex pricing matrix involved in that where, if you group this group of tests together, you might get a little better price, or on a certain volume, you get a better price. Certain customers get better pricing. So those are the two main workflows, and those involve CRM or sales force management. Activities like there's a problem, so you create a case for that order, for that lab test or that project, and you make sure that case is resolved and documented. Certainly quote tracking, that we put together quotes for this project or for this series of lab tests and then track that through the system. Phone calls, discussions, emails, with different people regarding those tests that are either internal or external. And then finally, the importance of pipeline management. What tests are coming up next month so the lab can do scheduling and resource planning and make sure they have appropriate materials and equipment available to do those tests. And it's very important to have that in one integrated system. Many customers have Salesforce or Microsoft CRM or Sugar, or there's just dozens of CRM systems out there. But if they're not connected to the project management and the ERP and the financial system, then you've got a disconnect that has to be integrated or handled with some kind of manual import or upload. Lots of customization costs. The customization costs on CRM systems can be tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I've got practical experience with that with some of our clients and people that we've helped in the past. And then something that's very important is the reporting and how that information is extracted from the ERP and CRM system. I just hear it over and over again that from customers that will tell me, the information's in there, it's in the system, but I can't get it out in a format that my project managers, study managers, lab personnel, finance people can evaluate and use and take actionable action on. So an Excel-based report writer that's connected tightly to the financial and CRM system is critical so that people are independent and they can and do their own reporting and get that information out in a format that they want to work with. And then finally, just the standard cloud benefits, access anytime, anywhere, from any device, not having to worry about server hardware, terminal servers. I mean, with the COVID issues today, people need to be able to work remote. It might even be working from a truck, or working from a van, coffee shop, home, certainly, multiple office locations, client locations, and the ability to have vendors and subcontractors use the same system securely that you use in-house is definitely an option with cloud systems that's much more difficult with traditional on-premise systems. And this generally is called digital transformation. That's what Acumatica calls it, moving from the classic uh, analog type business to a modern digital business. That's what we're presenting today. We're really pushing down the level, Fortune 500 level tools to the mid market. And then Acunet adds its consulting, business process expertise to help you implement that so that you'll have a system that you can use for decades to come. So our customers that have moved from cloud to move to the cloud have had a much easier time adapting to this crazy COVID-19 environment that we're in today. Basically, what they're trying to do is make their systems future proof. I mean, we just don't know anymore what might happen with additional viruses coming from China. Who knows what government restrictions are going to put on us with how many people we can have in the office and how they have to work. So we really need something that's just future proof, that we can handle any curveball that the environment, government, uh, or our competition might throw at us. And so we call this making your system future proof. I have one customer quote here from Palmer Food Services that moved to the cloud about a year ago, just before, I don't know if you remember, those tornadoes came through and just decimated parts of Tennessee around Nashville. And then shortly after that, the COVID virus hit. So fortunately for Palmer, they had already moved to the cloud, so it was easy for them to have their workers work from home or in temporary offices, wherever they could get internet access and still continue business. And Liz Palmer says that she actually thinks she increased market share during this time period because her competitors were not prepared and to move as fast as they were able to move to take advantage of those competitive opportunities. Well, whenever you implement a new system, especially many of our customers have used the same system for 20 years, it's just become very familiar and standard. It's built into the company's business processes. So any change is going to face some resistance from employees. And one of the ways to knock down that resistance is with a system that is truly easy to use. And don't take our word for it, although I definitely believe, Acumatica with its web interface, its Amazon-like type interface is very reasonable for customers to pick up and use. But companies like Nucleus Research has ranked Acumatica as highest on ease of use. Then a just critical portion for any business is that they can get to it from smartphones now. I mean, with the younger generations, they definitely are smartphone oriented, do a tremendous amount from that phone, and it's definitely very workable with Acumatica. All the dashboards, workflows, reports that you can get on a full screen can be reformatted to something that's usable on a smartphone. Even smartwatches and Alexa is possible to do some tasks with those devices in Acumatica. But what is definitely reasonable is to use things like a Chrome workbook, which costs $150 and gives any user a full screen access, and it's very workable. And of course, it works with Macs, it works with any browser, it works with Microsoft, of course, and any of your desktops. So however you want to work, Acumatica can present that information from that device. What is critical also is growth-friendly licensing. In the past, you have per user pricing, which is just really restrictive because you end up saying, well, do I really want to spend another $3,000 to get another user on the system? What Acumatica presents is unlimited licensing, site type licensing. and they price based on consumption. How much horsepower, how much CPU, storage you're using, the transactions that you're actually processing, and then open up access to everybody in the system. So if you have just a board member that just needs some financial reports at the end of the year or once a month, you can do that, and it doesn't cost you extra. You can utilize those maybe interns or a secretary to do some transactions and get those into the system and get them started, and it doesn't cost you extra. And one of the things I hear from some customers still today, although I think it's definitely the curve has been beaten back on that, is that they're afraid to put their information in the cloud. Well, I can just tell you absolutely that the security with cloud-based systems is far more secure than on-premise. And the reason for that is that packages like Acumatica are hosted on Amazon right now. And Amazon just has tens of thousands of people working on security and applying updates and keeping their system current. It's just hard for a small business with a couple of IT people, maybe an outsourced IT firm, to keep up that level of security rigor. So your on-premise system is only as good as the last update. I mean, there's just constantly updates coming out, for your firewall, your workstations, SQL, your applications, and Acumatica is keeping all those updated. Acumatica's uptime is 99.8%, and it is virus free. You just don't see ransomware viruses with cloud-based systems like Acumatica, and I still have customers with on-premise systems, 3 or 4 times a year, I get a note that, oh no, we got the ransomware virus and we're trying to recover from backups and put data back into the system and get back into business. That type of thing just does not happen with Acumatica. The Acumatica core product line, is really encompassing. I mean, the goal is to do everything in one system. So your CRM system, inventory, project management, financial reporting, payroll, even some other modules like field service is something that I see many labs needing and getting into. Those are all from one company. So your integration is just built in. It's there. Everybody's using the same interface, the same CRM system, so that sales forecasts, are just fall out of the system because the CRM system is part of the financial system. Acumatica is open architecture with its cloud-based delivery. So other cloud systems, like, of course, Microsoft Office 365, Box, Power BI, DocuSign, all the shipping systems, marketing systems, e-commerce systems, all those systems integrate very easily with the open APIs and import export type features that are just very, very strong with Acumatica. And here's just some Acumatica customers. I included, professional services is the first column and is our most popular group of customers that Acunet works with. But labs cross over. Oftentimes they're distribution companies where they're taking volume lab shipments in, sometimes sending those out either through UPS or FedEx or US Mail. Maybe it's a report. Maybe they have to return that sample with some kind of report. They may also be using e-commerce systems to deliver those reports over the web to a end user customer or another organization. Some of our customers are doing product testing, and they actually have a work order process that they run that sample through. It might be concrete, asphalt, soil samples, water samples, and there's a manufacturing process that happens on that. And then we talked about the e-commerce, and then construction companies oftentimes have labs. We have several companies that are construction companies with labs. So Acumatica has that full set. So even if today you aren't doing e-commerce, it's likely you'll be doing e-commerce in the future, and that is built into Acumatica. So Acumatica is one of the few ERP systems I know that actually has a user bill of rights, and it just speaks to the integrity and the values of Acumatica. So they talk about their consumption-based licensing. They guarantee no more than a 3% price increase in 1 year. I mean, some years it's nothing, some years it's 3%, but you aren't going to get the big spikes that I've seen with other ERP systems that are cloud-based, where once they got you as a customer, their price might go up 15, 20% in 1 year. So I won't read all those to you, but it is there. It's on Acumatica's website, and it just speaks to the integrity and one of the reasons we like to work with Acumatica. Okay, I'm going to turn things over now to Michael Coleman, who put together some of those workflows that we talked about earlier for labs, so that you can actually see the results of that. So Michael Coleman, will you take it away?
Today we're talking about labs and laboratory practices and inventory management systems. So let's take a look at Acumatica. First thing that we see when we come into Acumatica are dashboards. Dashboards can be specific to a group of people or specific to an individual. This particular dashboard is what is used as the controller dashboard, but it's not necessarily everything that the controller wants to see. We can also add these tiles to each individual dashboard and customize it. For instance, we also have a dashboard for a consultant, someone who's working in the field or a laboratory scientist. You could see what open time cards he has, what assignments they have in the projects, or what tasks are outstanding. We have some that just apply to financials, like the accounts receivable card. These are all built on a generic inquiry. If you've used a database system before, or a database before, this would look awfully familiar to you. It's just a query against the database to gather the information, and we're going to put it into a graphical format to allow you to use it. That way, this information can be highlighted to you and brought to your attention as quickly as possible. So the first thing that we're going to talk about today is volume ordering. We're going to take a look at how we go from a quote to a sales order. Part of the marketing system is that we do have opportunities for you to keep track of how you're going to be talking to a person and who is talking to the person. When we get to the quote stage, we're going to create a mass quote, and we're asking for some information. And in this particular quote, we're also going to institute how and what the customer is involved with. So in this particular instance, our lab test number 1 is a standard test that we present, and the customer is going to get quoted for 5 labs within a billing period. We can do a variety of things, as Mike was talking about before, about discounts. We can present manual discounts as a first-time customer, or we can create a discount code. The discounts can be based on documents. Let's highlight that. A line per quote or invoice, or a group of items. Now we can take that information and apply it to a customer for a specific operation, a customer in a price class, or the customer, or just the price class. So we can have a specific item that is available for a discount every time we use the discount code. Now you can get as specific as you want. In this particular item, we're going to tell it, in this particular discount, we're going to give a break on an item for specific customers. So if specific customers order lab test 1 or lab test 2, or whether they have a transportation need, we can give them a break on that particular item for the specific customer on that specific item. Or we can do it for all customers or all items. We can also put a limit on it of a time limit of promotion. So we tell it from this period to when it expires. That's a little bit about how things are done in the discount matrix. And we can give discounts by specific amounts or discounts by quantity. So that's information that is useful for you. As we move forward, you can apply those to the quote. So in this particular quote, I'm going to give a 10% discount. And as I go through this, you see how it updates. When I create the quote, it's going to give me a quote to send to the customer. There's the information, the discount is highlighted, and we can easily send this to a customer and get feedback. So I'm going to print this quote off, and then I can send it to the customer with my comments. It should bring it up here in an email system, and then we can make some comments here. Dear Charles, please review. So we can save it and send it. And Charles will get this quote. Now the interesting thing about this is that the activities will be kept here where we set the quote. And the email, there will be a copy of the email here of what we said. So that is how we can take that information and get it across to the system. I'm sorry, I need to go back to the quote and say that the customer has reviewed the quote, got back in touch with us, and has decided to accept the quote. So after we receive their samples and we do the testing that we're going to do, then we can create a invoice from the possible, from this quote. I'm sorry. We want to prepared, submit, and copy the quote. And we are going to, it's not working. So we'll create the sales order. As we create the sales order for the customer, sorry. Let's say that there were I'm sorry there, I messed my typing wasn't very good. We can create the sales order and send it to the customer for payment. Now when we do that, the system will bring up will bring up the invoice and any shipping documents that needed to be sent. For instance, if you have to mail the sample back, We could create the shipment to mail it back. And in the meantime, we're going to send them the invoice. And that looks like this. In this particular invoice, oh my goodness. There's some credit hold. I've been using my customer just a little too often. Got them in trouble. This is the information that we would send them, and we would print the invoice. I'm sorry, we would send the invoice. And as we're sending the invoice, this is all customizable. We can present this information and get this as personable as we can. Now, in Box or in your server, you can have copies of the reports that you created. And in this particular instance, we have the ability to send those reports with the invoice. When we send the reports, we'll see that what it looks like as it goes out. I have this information in there. This is the invoice, and it will have the sample reports and a copy of the invoice. So we know that the customer has gotten everything that they've asked us for.
Hey, Mike, I noticed that log of emails when they go out, and so that keeps track of what's been sent. And
yes, this keeps track of who it was sent to and what was sent. This system also keeps track of people who need email passwords changed. This will send an email out to people that have to do that. This also keeps track of that, so you know who is having those issues.
Yeah, that's handy.
Yeah, it allows a little more flexibility in the things that you have to do. So let me take this down a little bit. The dashboard's getting in my way. So we also have the same opportunity to do that in opportunities. We can also do projects. So when we have an opportunity and it's going to be a longer term relationship and we want to do a project for someone, we can easily do that also. So we're going to create a quote. It's going to be a project, and we can also use templates that we have set up for specific projects. In our case, we have templates set up for progressive billing, fixed cost, fixed labor items, time and material projects, or milestones. So this one we're probably going to, let's use a time and materials with a WIP, and the project manager will be Mr. Baker. The company, Active Staffing, will be with her, and we will save the project. You see all the tasks that are available. Now you can put in some dates on these tasks, and that allows you to look at manpower planning and when information is going to be used. But this is still in the quote stage, so we're not going to be at a place where we're ready to commit our forces to it. Now, we can give them an estimate on what the costs are going to be. So in this particular instance, we're going to look at labor costs. And so we'll do PM labor, 25, and see this comes up with a standard cost that we have associated with it. because that's what we know that our business is going to need. And then we save it. And if this comes back, and we go back and forth a few times, we make some changes to this, which is possible to do, and then resubmit them. Some additions and projections can be made, and then we can convert this to a project. We can take the labor rates that we've established, we can make the project active, we can also carry the notes that we've had already in this project. And that information will come across to from the quote to the project. All the information is here, all the tasks are lined out, and then we can start actively pursuing this project and getting it in order.
Mike, that's very neat. There's a workflow that can go through, if you have a set approval process that it goes to person A and then person B, you can have a workflow set up on these two, is that correct?
That is correct. So we can do the workflow based on the project. We can require that certain tasks get an approval or dollar amounts get approval.
Very nice.
So any of those three things can be sent to an approver to be reviewed. Now, as you can see on this screen, one of the things that we're trying to do is provide you with as much information as possible on the project and also on the quote. You see that we have these notes and files up here. Both these notes and files apply to the project. We also have notes and files that apply to each task. That allows you the flexibility to keep track of information where you need it and where it applies. So as we move forward, this information will always be part of the system.
That could be any information, Mike. It could be Excel spreadsheets, that could be contracts, purchase orders, change orders, etc., right? Drawings. That's correct. And you can also keep track of specific PDF files and versions. And what we've had a couple customers do is use this to come out and provide information to different groups. So if you're testing 3 different items, say soil samples, concrete, and water levels, 3 different groups to get that information, and it's easy enough to add them as an attribute where the information comes across. And then you can easily mail that report with the, you can create the email and send it with the values associated with the particular email account. That way you don't have to keep your email account groups in Outlook. You can keep them within the project. And those commitments that you've made will show here that you've sent the email out to them. So you can always track that for any kind of compliance, or hey, I got to prove that this person got a chance to look at it. You've got that tracking there.
Yeah, it helps you with your billing process. Yes, exactly. In a particular project, we also keep track of the expenses associated with it. So in this particular project, we have only one task, and we have $10,000 worth of revenue, and we had an expected $7,500 worth of subcontractor fees. And right now we're seeing that we have $10,000 budgeted. We have not sent any invoices out. The expenses associated with this project so far are listed here, and this was the revised budget. This was the original budget. So that gives us a little insight into the project, and it'll allow you to see where you're going with it. So let's see. As we move forward, one of the things that happens is that other systems will be required to do work and need to import information into Acumatica. So we have the opportunity to do that by using imports. So right now, we can import the sales orders from a LIMS system. So the the samples have been received, they have completed their process, and have been referred to the LIMS system as complete. When they do that, they get created on a CSV document or an Excel spreadsheet that looks like this. And that allows us to import that document into Acumatica. So you've gone from preparing the quote, receiving the samples, and you're ready to bill, and you only have done one thing in Acumatica. And you're going to bill it.
Very nice.
So that's just, this system allows that kind of flexibility. Mr. Milligan was talking about the flexibility of the ERP, of the CRM system, and we're going to talk a little bit about that now. As we work with the CRM system and you are given opportunities, one of the things that happens is you get a dashboard. We're able to provide a dashboard for the sales manager. Let's do a salesperson. So this salesperson knows what, when they sign in, this is what appears. They know their opportunities, they know what's expected, where their cases are, where their opportunities are, how many new leads have been assigned to them, and what their current revenue is. The sales manager, he gets a different operation. It shows him the availability of how they're doing, what they're seeing, what deal sizes are, but these are all changeable. We are able to work with you and determine your needs and what each group needs to see. But as you get opportunities and work your way through them, we are able to keep track of the information that you have exchanged with the customer and are working on. As you can see here, we have the notes and the files again. We also have the same notes and files down here. And we also keep track of where it came from, because you do have the ability to create campaigns or marketing lists and get the information to you, to your teams. We also have something called business events, which allows you to take this particular opportunity and send out an Outlook reminder to keep you aware of what you're doing within your calendar. This is my calendar. It is very messy, but we're going to take a look at it. Acumatica has a plugin that will allow you to take the information within the email and apply it to the customer. So John works at Baird, and I can keep track of activity. If he's having a problem that I need to address or I need someone else to address, I can create a case to send to the support team or to the information gathering portion of our company. And if he wants to know about a new opportunity, a new product we have, or he has a current need that we can help him satisfy, we can create an opportunity to quote him on. But this is kind of the information that we keep track of here. We can keep track of the activities. We can send notes, whether or not we've had phone calls, what we need to do in the next 90 days or next year to even to contact him. We also have, in this particular opportunity, we're going to have the contact and who we're talking to. We also have something that's called attributes. We've worked on that in the past, and what that does is allow a company to look at specific things. Like us, we look at software, size of company, annual transactions. So we keep track of that kind of information. And you can keep track of that kind of information too, depending on your opportunities. And sometimes you have some things that go on that somebody has referred an opportunity to you. And if you want to keep them in the loop, you can come here and give them the opportunity to be aware of what's going on and how you're doing with it. So if ABC Holding has referred us something and we get the opportunity, maybe there's a candy basket that we want to send. But that is something that we can keep track of here and give us the opportunity to reward those people that have helped us along the way. So the next thing we're going to try to talk about is generic inquiries. As I've said before, the dashboards are full of visual cues. And these visual cues are all built on generic inquiries. If you've done anything with a database, these are quick queries or queries in general. And what it allows you to do is to pull specific tables, put them together, and then tell it what you want to see. So that allows you to build queries and gather information quickly. These can also be added to the menu to give you the opportunity to use them repeatedly if they're valuable. We do that quite frequently in most of the lookups. This is another generic inquiry, and this is pulling all of the journals. So we're trying to make this system as easy, as informative, and as mobile as we can. So if you have any questions about it or would like to talk about it, please give us a call.
I appreciate that, Michael. I appreciate that. And as I've heard from customers many times, you know, the information's in there, but I just can't get it out. And with this query system, it's really enables most users to create queries, and then you can share those queries with other people. And the queries are the basis for a dashboard, so you can display that same information graphically. I think we had a couple questions pop up. So I see one question here. It says, with which LIMS systems do you integrate? And that's a good question. And the answer is all of them. As you probably know, there are hundreds of LIMS systems out there. Some that are specialized for certain industries, a few that are more generic and larger, but it's still a very fractured industry with hundreds of software applications and many homegrown applications. And then occasionally we still have customers that use the #1 LIMS system out there, which is Excel. You know, so that's still popular, basically a manual system. So rather than forge, you know, hundreds of integration relationships, Acumatica comes with open APIs that allow us to easily hook with any modern type systems. Almost all systems will work with, we'll dump something to Excel or a CSV file, and then as Mike demonstrated, we can import those in. And you still have, you know, features like cut and paste and upload Excel spreadsheets. So there's just a ton of ways to get data into the system from the LIMS system, and that's where Acumatica adds some value to help you do that. The second question I had from our earlier presentation was, you know, questioning, you know, how this unlimited user license works. You know, are you paying a lot for that to have unlimited users? So think of it this way. Acumatica is providing all the resources, the servers, SQL licenses, hardware storage, processors, even the electricity, the battery backup, internet speed, the physical space to support that server that's running your transactions. Acumatica charges for the transactions using broad buckets. So for a business that is the high volume transaction, say, is checks or invoices per month. That's what we typically see. Either it's a payables driven business or you're invoicing products, and that's your main transactions. So if we use invoices, for example, those buckets might be, 0 to 500 is one bucket, 500 to 1500 is another bucket, and 1500 to 5000 is another bucket. And then it goes up from there. So a small business or a startup might be cutting very few checks to begin with and would be in that under 500 invoices a month and be paying a very small monthly fee. They only need a few processors, maybe 100 gigs of storage, and that's enough to keep their business running fast, but you still have unlimited users. And as you grow and add users and add transactions, you don't have to add additional licenses. You don't have to go through the setup of those new users. You've got them set up, or you bring them on as they're hired. I can still have an AP, AR, and controller that are pounding the system all day long, running reports and entering transactions, but the price per month is tied to consumption, not to users. User pricing is just inherently unfair. Customers have to often buy more than they need to make sure that people have access to the system when they need it. And the occasional once a month user, the guy who requests, they have to request reports get emailed to them or dumped to Excel. In my mind, this takes the, as I mentioned earlier, the enterprise out of ERP. This business has to make a price value decision on each user that needs access, and many people with light or sporadic access are just told no, you don't get access. It's not worth it. It's not worth $3,000 a year for you to have access. So this keeps the person in the warehouse that does receiving, maybe only does a couple invoices a day, and pushes manual paper that accounting ends up doing. The whole idea of an ERP system is to push those transactions down to the source. And that's what makes that system powerful. And that's why this unlimited user license with Acumatica is so powerful, such a great value, and a much fairer way to license. The last question we got here is, I want my information on site. I'm still nervous about cloud systems being, more prone to hacking. Well, the exciting news is Acumatica can be licensed on-premise. It can be hosted. You can say, hey, I want to put Acumatica license in a hosting center that's maybe near my office. Or you can do it in the cloud, which is the most popular. That's what's called SaaS pricing or subscription pricing. I'll give you an example. Microsoft and Linux are continuing to come out with new patches and subscription updates. Your firewall, Microsoft Office, Windows, and your other line of business applications are doing the same thing. And your system is only as secure as those latest updates. If those updates aren't applied, then there's a hole or a weakness that a hacker or a virus can exploit. Amazon provisions Acumatica and is consistently rated as the most secure resource provider. Amazon is certified, tested, and held accountable by hundreds of thousands of users and businesses. Amazon has thousands of highly skilled technicians monitoring those servers, updating them, stress testing them, tracking, trying to even hack their own systems before a hacker can. So, your typical small business just doesn't have the scale and the resources to do that kind of security rigor. I have hundreds of as I mentioned earlier, hundreds of on-premise legacy customers, and each year some of them get ransomware. That just does not happen with Acumatica. And you've got an uptime of 99.98%. The downtime that we typically get is scheduled maintenance. I'll usually get an email that says, hey, we're going to bring this customer down from 3 a.m. in the morning to 3:20 a couple of times a month. And that's when they do their updates and security patches and things that have to be done with the system down, although they can do many of them while the system is live. So that's why Acumatica and Amazon is just such a powerful team. So with that, I appreciate your questions. We're going to post this website, this webinar up on our website. And we at Acunet, we just really appreciate your attention and giving us this time. You can always contact me at mmilligan@accu.com, and our website is accu.com for other webinars that we've already published and information that we try and keep out there for our customers and other business friends to evaluate. So thank you very much, and we'll wrap it up. Thank you.